So my next question is, what inspires you the most, outside of this? Like, what do you do that creatively outside of advertising that really helps to recharge your batteries?
Well, as I said earlier, I went to OCA, Ontario College of Art, to study painting, and so I rediscovered contemporary art. I did an advertising campaign in Mexico using contemporary art from Mexico and tequila, and I was with a curator, and she educated me more on the contemporary art scene, which is different than modern art, which is what I didn't know. Andy Warhol is not contemporary. And so I started doing my own contemporary art, and I took a year off after being in advertising for a long time, and I just had my own art shows. I had here in Toronto and then in Mexico City and around Mexico City, and I exhibited stuff in San Francisco as well. And that charged my batteries, and it was a great way of expressing myself creatively because I was the client. I didn't have anybody else telling me yes or no. I made the decisions, and that was very refreshing. And then, but I kept on getting calls to go back into advertising, so I did. And so I'm doing the contemporary art, still doing it, but doing it in my spare time on weekends. And then also I did a short film, and that was really great because normally you work with directors and you're working with them. Here I got to decide everything and do things the way my vision was, and that's refreshing. So what I've learned is that you don't necessarily have to depend on other people to do your ideas like I used to before. You can do a lot of stuff yourself, and especially when you've been in the business as long, I know what I need and I can do it. So good learning experience there.
Yeah, you're right. The democratization of the internet has allowed people to just do whatever they want. They are no longer beholden to anybody else. If they want to create something, they can put it on a website and have it out there. But because there's so much clutter out there, because everything's so real time focused now, like what was new yesterday is old in an hour.
Right.
How do you kind of keep them focusing on what you want them to be focusing on for more than 5 minutes?
You can't. No, I don't know how to answer that question, actually. You can't. I mean, what you have to do is before there was only 2 or 3 medias to get your idea across. Now there are so many, and what you have to do is take your idea and get it across all those medias. What I use a lot is we may do a mass advertising campaign, but then I'll use the digital media to get the campaign out to people worldwide that way. And because of that, now because I'm not so Canada focused also with our work, Japan, Tokyo, in Japan, Shanghai, Germany, Australia, they're all picking up on our work and they're aware of our work in Great Toronto and they're writing about it. So you just take advantage of it. And then, if something's really good, it will stick. I think Taxi, which is a great Canadian agency, they had the second most awarded ad of 2010, which was the Viagra stuff. And it's great to see a Canadian shop doing that and the fact that it's being recognized worldwide.
So with advertising today, how the model's changing and how, you can be anywhere and do work anywhere. So
Yeah, I understand it, and we just did an ad last year with Strategy Magazine actually, talking about that, and we talked about the agency in 2011. And it was all about this cloud, where you had the CEO based in Toronto, you'd have the head of accounts in San Francisco, art director in Burlington, the writer in Muskoka, and they can all work together because of this new technology. So that's a good thing. And also, I Have an Idea has a thing called the Giant Hydra, which is where they have all these 400 creators from around the world, and people like myself can go and then use them to brainstorm for ideas. And I think it's a really great experiment, it's a really great idea, and I do think it's where the future's going, where you're not just limited to people in your city and within the brick and mortar that you're working.
So there are lots of startups everywhere. Everyone seems to be playing with different models, and a lot of innovation going on digitally and across the board in different companies. So when you're meeting with a brand, how do you guys try to get the work done in Canada and see if you can get it outside of Canada, into other markets? Is there a process or a way you approach doing stuff like that to kind of just raise your profile?
Okay, we did a project during Nuit Blanche, which is the big contemporary art festival that's one night in Toronto, and we did it guerrilla style, and we projected a wall projection, Canada's largest 3D mapping projection, on a wall in Union Station. And we did it all night for 12 hours, and we deliberately did it to get, we use Facebook, we use Foursquare, we use Twitter, so we made a case study on it, and we built a little video. So then we got that video on our YouTube channel, and we send that video out to different blogs and websites and reporters around the world. They report on it, they talk about it, so we got the idea out. And now our client, because we've got this case study, we have this video, they go to their global meetings and they present the work that we're doing in Canada, and now the idea is being picked up in other countries. So would be how we did it, and we've done it. And then this global mood clock that we're working on is the same type of thing.
What I like about the mood clock is that you're taking a lot of real-time analytics and like baking it into a product, so it allows you to you're getting all these external factors to kind of enrich the experience for the people that are actually using it. For all the analytical data out there, how do you decide? How do you not get overwhelmed by it? There's so much of it. People always want more, but it seems like there comes a point where it almost seems like there's too much to handle.
When you say too much to handle, you mean work-wise?
Well, more like data, like in terms of like what do you figure
data.
out? Like there's so much data out there.
Yeah,
so.
And there's going to be more. So just deal with it, I guess. And I wish I didn't sleep because it's irritating. Because I have my PVR, movies on the PVR. I have friends to meet in the bar. I got a restaurant to go to. I got my job to do. I got magazines to read. It's just getting overwhelming. But this is the world we live in, and you have to pick and choose where you're going to go and how you're going to decide your day. But sometimes it is overwhelming. Yes?
Are you on social media at all?
Yeah.
What platforms are you really kind of like focusing on? What are your touch bases?
Me personally, Facebook I think is amazing. I think it's great. And it's a great way for me to keep in contact with my friends and family, and also students. I used to teach in Mexico City at an advertising school. And Twitter, I use a lot as well. When I see very interesting articles, I'll put them on my Twitter feed. And then LinkedIn, not so much. I don't see the big deal on LinkedIn. I haven't seen any benefit of it, so I'm not a big fan of that. And I think YouTube, having your own YouTube channel is interesting if you're into film and video and stuff, and sharing your thoughts through that. So those are my main platforms, and that's what I like. And obviously it's mostly through my mobile. That's how I have access to that. And then when I go home, I will have my computer screen, which will give me, I can do more on my computer screen. The mobile is still limiting in how you can navigate.
Do you think that people who want to get into advertising, do they really need to go to school for it? How many different ways can you do it? And does maybe having a different kind of background enhance somebody else who may be looking to get in from a different perspective?
I think that's a really interesting question. I do believe going to a school and being around people who have the same want or goals as yourself is good, so you can learn from each other. And I think it's good being with teachers who are in the field right now, and they can sort of help you, guide you. But what a school can do is just teach you the basics of typography, design, coming up with a big idea and how to write and how to lay things out, and maybe how to use certain programs like InDesign or web programs or Flash. You can maybe teach yourself, but you need then to go to an advertising agency or a design firm or a digital shop, because you have to be hands-on. You can't just sit at home and teach yourself. You've got to be in an environment where the work is done and you're around other people. Once you've got that learning, then I can go off by myself, but you've got to be around people and in situations to learn. One thing I think is interesting, what's worked for me, are people who created their own blogs and have relevant content. People who also, because I run the Twitter and Facebook and stuff here, I'm aware of everybody who talks about Great Canada, so I'm interested in when people take our work and then talk about it. And that's good, because I found a lot of students who do that. Then I get interested into their site if they have good content, and I think that's a great way. So you don't have to be screaming at me saying, give me a job. You're demonstrating to me how you think and your thought process. In the traditional way of just trying to get through the door and a physical meeting with someone like myself or other art directors or designers or web designers, you know, you could do that, which is the old way, sending a mail-in piece, sending something through the web. The thing is, though, now we're just being bombarded with everything that it's going to be hard to stand out. Other things are portfolio night, taking your work and taking that investment and meeting people at portfolio night. And the other is going to bars where those type of people go, or clubs, and get to know them on Facebook, get to know where they go. And I'm not saying stalk them, but you know, just bump into them in the bar and introduce yourself. That is a way. You know, there's quite a few ways, but use the tools that are there now. And you can also send complimentary notes. I just saw your new campaign for Salvation Army. I like it. And, you know, build up a conversation that way.
Like, what's the most unique thing someone's ever done to get your attention when they're looking for, you know, as a junior trying to get an internship or a job?
It was a girl from Germany, and I was in Mexico City, and she contacted me through an email and then sent me an airplane meal, you know, that you get, those horrible airplane meals, but it was all embroidered. And it was kind of weird. And she went to such a great effort to create this piece for me and then asked me for summer intern, and I gave it to her. And I hadn't even met her, but I liked the effort that she did, and it showed me she was creative and she really wanted to work with me for 3 months. So she did.
What happened to her afterwards?
Well, she was at my place at Christmas staying with me. We became good friends, and she's moving to Canada, actually, to work in a design company here.
So, from a business side of things, how does somebody that's looking to get into planning and buying and things like that, what kind of things can they do to stand out to get into the industry?
Okay. Something that we had discussed a bit earlier was like, it'd be interesting if someone like that would have a portfolio. Because an account person or a planner showing the creative work they've done, that's great, and it shows how proud you are of what you've done. You know, normally people just get resumes, and they just show themselves through resumes, and then when you're in the interview, it's just talking to the person in chemistry. But when you show a portfolio, then it gives you a talking point. You can explain in more detail what you did and how you participated and created that piece. So I do think the portfolio is a good idea. And what's interesting is the trend of infographics now as well. And I was seeing that people are starting to do resumes that are infographic, which I think is kind of interesting, you know, showing how much digital knowledge you have and how much experience you have in an infographic way. And it's quick, it's simple, infographics are great, and sometimes people are very lazy in reading a resume, so it's an interesting way to go. So my point is just have things that are different that nobody else is doing to get noticed.
So what are you guys working on now that's just recently launched or that you can talk about?
Okay, well, the Salvation Army campaign we just did, you know, it's a recession, we're coming out of a recession, Christmas, everybody's asking money for Christmas, people want money for presents, people want, you know, to go on holiday, so, and RSPs and everything, they're like, give me money. And we had to go and ask people to donate money for the Salvation Army. Not easy, and they gave us a goal of $18 million this year in Canada to raise. So we created our campaign based on a really great insight, because I do think that you can't just do creative without having great planning and strategists behind you. And the insight was dignity, and giving these homeless people, who are not always men, they're women and children who are on the street, they're young kids on the street, teenagers, giving them back their dignity. And we created the campaign based on that insight, and we were able to get $3 million more than what the client asked us to get. So we ended up raising $21 million, and that's only in a 6-week time span. And we used mass media, and then it was complemented by digital media. And the reason we used a lot of digital media was because younger people don't normally donate money. And younger people are more in digital, like Twitter and on Facebook and the web. So we spoke to them, and because of that strategy, we believe that we're able to get more money thanks to the young people and using new media.
This is Eric Floresca at AsBuzz Canada, and I just want to thank Carl Jones, the VP Executive Creative Director at Grey Canada, for his time and talking with us, and thank you very much.